The Houston Rockets season is coming to a close, and unfortunately, it's been a pretty abysmal year for the franchise. They of course traded their superstar in James Harden near the start of the season, and that led to a 20-game losing streak. So as of when recording this video, they have the worst record in the entire NBA, and are looking likely to land a top 3 pick for this upcoming NBA draft. Luckily though, which is fortunate to say as a Rockets fan, this team has an incredibly bright future, and this last stretch of games has shown the great direction and potential that this team has. But where do they go from here? What do the Rockets do next to complete their fresh rebuild as soon as possible? I'll be looking at that and more in today's video. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. We just hit 16,000 subscribers and now we're on the road to 17,000, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets went all in on the tank after the James Harden trade, and it especially took a nosedive after Christian Wood's ankle injury, which sidelined him for a significant period of time. As a result, Houston has plummeted down the standings and now have easily the worst record in the league with 16 wins and 52 losses. Even though the season has been disappointing, there have still been a lot of positives, and one is the fantastic development and obvious potential of their young core. There's a lot to like with that group and the direction of it. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of what I think the Rockets should spend their time doing this upcoming off-season, I want to talk about what the Rockets should not change from this season. Who are the players from their current core that they should keep around for the foreseeable future? The first guy they obviously need to keep is Christian Wood. He just signed with H-Town on an incredibly cheap contract for his actual value and its long term. He's committed to this team, wants to win with this team, and sees the potential with this side. And not only is he buying into the culture, he is the orchestrator of the culture too. He's Houston's best player right now, coming off a 21-10 season on above average shooting overall. He's an all-star caliber player when healthy, and Houston cannot lose that. If Wood doesn't go down with that injury this season, the Rockets almost certainly don't drop 20 straight. They're probably closer to the 12th seed than they are 15th. It's as simple as that. Maybe I'm optimistic in saying that, but as someone who's watched every Rockets game this season, we stay competitive for the majority of games. This squad isn't trash, and Wood plays a part in keeping that competitiveness alive when playing the best of the best. He is a must-have on this side for as long as possible. He's the guy the Rockets should look to build around, so again, he's a must-keep moving forward. Another guy that clearly needs to be kept is Kevin Porter Jr. The Rockets literally traded him for nothing. It's crazy how big of a steal this guy has been for them. He's shown star potential with his fantastic scoring and offensive creation ability. His ways of creating looks for himself are great, and if he gets going, he can be a scary talent. I mean, he's the youngest player to drop 50 points and 10 assists, and he did that on a top perimeter defender in Jrue Holiday. If that doesn't scream future star, I don't know what does. KPJ reminds me a lot of Harden, which gives me great optimism. He's young, so there's still a lot of work to do, but the potential is there, and it's insanely high, so it's clear to me he'll be a big part of the Rockets' future. Jae'Sean Tate has also been elite for the Rockets this season and should be an essential part of this team moving forward. I seriously cannot praise him enough. He's the heart and soul of the Rockets team and always gives 110% effort every minute he's on the floor, earning all his time out there. His shooting is improving, he's a terror inside even though he's undersized, and his defense can be borderline elite. He's older than an average rookie, having spent some time in the Australian Professional League, but his value to this team is so much higher than the box score shows. I made an in-depth analysis on Tate a month or so ago, so be sure to go give that a watch for a deeper analysis of Tate's importance to this team. But again, He's a guy I hope the Rockets keep around for a long time moving forward. He's truly a gem in the rough that they shouldn't risk giving up. Kelly Olynyk has been fantastic since joining Houston, going from a very average, even bad player on Miami to an efficient 18-8 player on the Rockets. Houston will be in need of some vets moving forward to help with the development of this young side. And if Olynyk's play in this system is any sign, it's that he is the perfect vet for this team. He's an incredibly valuable presence and deserves more love for his play on the Rockets. He's definitely surprised me with his impact, and I hope he remains a part of this team next season. There are other guys the Rockets should definitely keep around for 2022 too, but I won't go too in depth because the video is already long as it is. One player is KJ Martin. His rise lately has been phenomenal. I was already a big fan of him in his limited minutes earlier on in the season, but with more and more time, he's gotten even better, and I'm really excited to see him develop down the track. Guys like Sterling Brown and Armani Brooks have been great additions to this team too. Almost all of the Rockets mid-season pickups, like Kyrie Thomas, have been great as well. So I hope they can remain as key rotation pieces moving forward. But with that being said, what do the Rockets change up? This season was horrible record-wise for a reason. So what needs to change to brighten the future and turn this play around? Well, firstly, what do the Rockets need? To me, there's a couple of empty spots on the Rockets roster that need filling, and that is offensive creation and rim protection. One major problem with the Rockets all year was the lack of a player outside of John Wall to create offense and open up the defense. Down the stretch, if John Wall was cold, the whole Rockets side went cold, and it led to some poor losses, like the blown lead against Minnesota a few months ago. However, we did see near the end of the season that the Rockets were able to discover some more guys who are able to create, namely Kevin Porter Jr., but also, with the return of Christian Wood, the Rockets' offense was able to flow much nicer, even with John Wall on the sidelines, which is a good sign. But this is still an area that I think needs to be upgraded if the Rockets are trying to be competitive next season. The Rockets also lack rim protection. Christian Wood and Kelly Olynyk have been great offensively this season, but both simply aren't good enough defensively together to protect the paint, and it's led to the Rockets getting exposed in matchups against players like Nikola Jokic. Jason Tate does his best as a strong undersized big, but this is a significant area of concern for the Rockets that I believe is a must fix in the off-season. So, who do the Rockets target to fix these issues? Let's look to free agency. The Rockets have a fair amount of cap space to play around with, and I think looking for a decently sized contract player would be appropriate to fill the rim protection issue. Obviously, the Rockets don't want this player clashing with Wood offensively, and it's likely that they'd come off the bench, or Olynyk would slide to the bench and they'd be in the starting lineup. But a guy that sticks out to me from this free agency class is Kevon Looney from the Golden State Warriors. Looney is a hard-working hustle player and has been extremely effective next to Steph Curry the past few years. If the Rockets throw a good amount of money at him, I think they can lure him into Houston. Looney isn't elite defensively, but he is a positive on that end. Plus, he is still young at just 25 years of age, so he fits the timeline of the team. So I think he'd be a worthwhile addition. His averages of just 4 and 6 in 18 minutes aren't eye-popping, but every Warriors fan knows his importance to their team. So I think he could sneakily be a positive pickup for the Rockets. As for the playmaking role that needs help filling, I think the Rockets avoid free agency for that, because the draft is where they have a fantastic chance at upgrading that area. So let's talk about that. Now, we obviously don't know what pick the Rockets have right now, but we can assume after such a poor season that they'll end up with a top 3 pick. If not, they lose the pick, so we'll just presume they do land it in that area for the sake of this video. If the Rockets get the first pick, I'd go with Cade Cunningham as the best selection. He's the sure thing of this draft class and the clear first pick, so it would be a mistake to not take him. However, if the Rockets fall to 2nd or 3rd in the draft, I think their best option is to draft Josh Giddey, 6'8" guard from Australia, who's just wrapped up a phenomenal season on the professional Australian team, the Adelaide 36ers. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I'm Australian, but I truly believe that what Giddey provides is exactly what the Rockets need. Though he's a bit unathletic, he's a solid shooter and has great size to power through on drives. What he's best at though is of course playmaking, and he is above and beyond the best player in this class at that aspect. LaMelo was great in the NBL last year, and Giddey has been just as good in my opinion. Maybe a tad worse than Melo, but still definitely top 10 pick worthy. Again, without going in too much detail and making a whole analysis on Giddey, he's got the skills that I think suit the Rockets, and I think the Rockets situation suits him. Not a lot of pressure because they will have other guys like KPJ, Wood, Olynyk, maybe Wall, etc. So I think he can develop well in that system and be a solid contributor for the team. Again, the Rockets need playmaking, so why wouldn't you select the best playmaker in this draft class who's already been excellent at a professional level? It just makes too much sense for me, but hey, that's just my opinion and we'll see what happens. But again, that's my take on the draft for the Rockets. Cunningham or Giddey, those are my two options for them, depending on the draft pick that they get. But overall, these are my thoughts on the Houston Rockets and what they should do next. This team has an incredibly bright future, and by keeping players like KJ Martin, KPJ, Seawood and others intact in their core, they'll be able to reap the benefits of that potential. There are definitely some problems with this team, and I don't have the perfect solutions. I'm not trying to make it look that way. But in my eyes, drafting either Cade or Giddey and signing or trading for a player like Looney or someone with a similar skill set should be beneficial to this team. Rebuilds are often a lengthy process, and I don't think the Rockets will be a playoff contender again next season. However, they can fast track this rebuild with a positive offseason now. And if they make the moves that I've mentioned today, they put themselves in a great position to do so. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but the Rockets' future is looking good, and as a die-hard fan of this team, I am very excited to see what's next. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? What do the Rockets do next to you? Are there any trades you think they should make, and who do they select in this upcoming draft? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.